Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV. We're joined today by Andre from Intellias. Andre, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Please, as is customary, tell us who you are and tell us about Intellias.
Sure. So, Andre Nedelcoux. I've worked in the financial industry for 20 plus years now. I'm a technologist, an enthusiast about AI, I would say. And with my team at Intellias, we help turn the AI fantasy and dream into actual reality. So we work with a lot of companies in the capital market space to embed AI into their workflows, increase the productivity of their teams, and ultimately try to disrupt the way they engage in the market and help them really with revenue generation.
Understood, thank you. And AI is, we're here at the TradingTech Summit today, and that has been, as everyone can imagine, one of the hot topics that everyone's talking about. You've been on a panel today, so we're very grateful to have your insight following that. So what are the kind of key takeaways for your panel session?
Yeah, it was a really good conversation, and to your point, even on panels or presentations that were not specifically about AI, people were talking about AI, so it is the topic that's in front of mind for everyone. And I think one of my first takeaways would be the enthusiasm people have around the topic. I think a lot of the market has now recognized that there is value in AI and understand what the value of AI is. So we're not, in the earlier phases where people were wondering, is this really going to help, or what can we use AI for? This is more about, we get it now, how do we scale this and how do you make this a reality? So I think this has slightly shifted, and this is where a lot of the market is focused at the moment. I think for one of the conversations we're having really on the panel was also around what we call enterprise AI platforms or enterprise AI capabilities. If you want to embrace AI at scale and really transform multiple business lines or multiple businesses, you really need to think of how you're going to deal with the common topics that are today blockers for the adoption of AI. So how do you make sure that your AI systems are observable, that they are compliant with your regulations, that you're actually not spending too much money, make sure they're resilient, and the more you are building autonomous systems using AI, the more important this becomes. You want to make sure that your autonomous agents you are using the skills you've developed with them, or that they are using your in-house data, that they communicate using the right terminology. You want to make sure that when you're asking them a question, they're going to search your trusted data sources rather than just Googling random things on the internet, right? So it's all these things that you need to have in place, and that's what we call enterprise AI platform or enterprise AI capability, to really control and manage these systems in production. And once you've put this in place, this is how you're going to scale AI within the organization. So you'll be able to have multiple business lines, multiple areas really embracing the AI without having to worry about, is this regulated, is it going to cost too much, is it doing something it shouldn't be doing? And I think one of the panelists used the term today, owning the feedback loop. I think that's very much what these platforms help you do, is once you have these environments, you measure a lot of how your AI performs, and as a result of it, you can continuously improve and continuously fix any issues you might have with your AI system and really derive value from it.
Yeah.
So this was, in a nutshell, what we talked about was a really interesting conversation.
But it's fairly wide-ranging as well, and then something you touched on there, obviously, within the financial services, one of the most sort of heavily regulated industries in the world. And I always sort of think with these sort of technology, I wouldn't say hype cycles, but a few years ago, everyone was talking about blockchain and distributed ledger technology, and there were firms almost looking to shoehorn it in somewhere, thinking this is great technology, but then ultimately the change and getting it in wasn't necessarily right at that time. How are you seeing AI used within the capital markets more broadly at the moment?
So I think AI and blockchain are very different. I think the blockchain is a fairly niche technology that has some very clear application and uses, but I think it was a bit of a technology looking for a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
I think AI is much more pervasive and much broader, and the applications are extremely rich and there's a lot of possibilities, and I think that's the really the exciting things. To your question, how are people using AI? What are they doing with it? I think there's so many facets to it. We talked on the panel about how you embed AI into the trader workflow, for instance. So that's about automating and improving your existing business processes using AI. We talked about how you go one level up and start to have autonomous agents doing more of that, or even doing things that you couldn't do with humans because of the complexity that's involved. I think there's another facet of it, which is one of the themes of this morning's conversation was the transition of the markets towards 24/7. We are working with customers, for instance, to help, and how the conversation there was, or the blocker in that fact, there was legacy platforms and systems that cannot do this transition and the cost of migrating the systems. We are working with customers today to help them transform the existing environment to a 24/7 environment using AI. So AI is also a modernization tool you can use to really transform your stack at a pace and a scale you couldn't do with humans, or in cases where the business case didn't really stack up at the time. Now with AI, it changes completely the game. We're also seeing customers using AI to deal with regulatory compliance, actually. So, how do you fix these thorny problems from things like BCBS 239 around data quality, data lineage, data modeling? Well, you can use actually AI and AI agents to help you with that data management task, and try to go towards a model where you're automating regulatory compliance. So it's very multifaceted. You can do really a lot of very different things, and I think that's the exciting thing, is the possibilities, and also the fact now that we have the tools and platforms to do this in a safe way. So the technical solutions are starting to emerge, and they exist now to do this really in a real production environment in a regulated industry.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think again the difference, because so many people, individuals have access to ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that. You can see benefits immediately, and then it's just understanding how that's then implemented into that sort of enterprise environment. And tell us a bit more about Intellias, sort of where you're at the moment, the sort of the type of clients you're helping, and what's the future look like?
Yeah, I mean so we're working across, I guess I would say, all the areas of capital markets. So working with hedge funds, working with large asset managers, with some sell-side firms. So we're really, I guess, across the whole capital markets landscape on all the topics I was mentioning before, right? Yeah. So everything from embedding AI into your business processes, to modernizing, to dealing with regulatory compliance. Yeah. I think the interesting, to your question of where is this going, what I find very interesting is that we are a consultancy and a services business, right? And a lot of our business model was in the past based on billable hours, basically, right? So you were paid based on the time your engineers would spend building a solution. I think this model is being disrupted and severely disrupted. And I think where we want to be positioned, and our energy is as a business, is how do we achieve bigger outcomes for our customers with smaller teams, and how do we actually now have a business model that's more based on delivering clear outcomes for our customers rather than good people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a general problem around the industry. And you look at the very large services companies which have hundreds of thousands of people, they're going through a very painful pivot of retraining all their staff, rethinking how to use AI, and also figuring out how these large contracts involving lots of people are going to rapidly transform into much smaller teams. And in a way we have a kind of a sweet spot scale, with 3,000 engineers, so we're big enough to do big things, but also not that big that we can't pivot. And I think that's for front of mind for us as a business, is how do we become an AI-powered business ourselves in the way we serve our customers.
Yeah, fascinating. And again, so at what point in AI adoption or the thought process should people be reaching out to you and your organization?
Any point, really.
Okay.
We work with organizations who are just beginning the journey and are probably thinking, we might have missed the boat a bit and we need to get our act together. And I think we can really give them the leg up to accelerate the journey and starting the journey. We work with fairly mature organizations in the AI space who are still looking for expertise and a different view on the market, I guess. One of the challenging things for everyone is the pace of change. You know, what used to change every 3, 4, 5 months changes every 3, 4, 5 weeks or days now.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for everyone. So I think that's, you know, even the more advanced companies with AI find value from us in comparing notes and looking at, you know, different techniques, different things we've innovated with. So I think it's really, you know, we work with companies at all levels of maturity, I would say.
Yeah, very good. And look, just final question: that how would they find you? What's the best place to find you?
The usual places, LinkedIn, our website. We're there where we expect us to be, I guess.
Yeah, very good. Andre, thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.